Sit this right here. The fact that you just left it.
Oh, okay.
Yes, please.
Where the, can you wipe it for
All right, so welcome everyone watching on YouTube and in real life. This is afternoon poetry at My Place Cafe. Since My Place Cafe is still open during this live stream, stop by and get yourself a iced caramel latte, like I'm having today. In fact, what's funny is like I always forget to mention or show the drinks because usually I drink them like way before I started a poetry event like this. Above My Place Cafe is the Artist Loft. Services this loft offers is makeup artistry, lashes, hyaluronic lip fillers, and airbrush tanning. Services are offered by appointment only. To schedule one, visit www.bargado.com/theartistloft. For more information, you may also contact Nina at 626-274-3064. And also above My Place Cafe is Space Brownie Body Art, a tattoo and piercing studio run by Maurice Dean. In fact, a couple of the people that are here in the audience met Dean a moment ago. For more information, contact on Instagram at spacebrownie_. So today's featured poet was a guest at Be the Change Social Justice Writing Workshop last month. This is a series by poet James Coates. Today, James Coates is releasing his book, Midnight Dreams and Midnight Dreams and Madness. I know, and Madness. Anyways, where I first discovered Micah Tasaka is in Writing for Life by Nervous Ghost Press. Khadija Anderson says Tasaka's poems are striking. The floor from this anthology is one of those striking pieces. I think of rebirth because of the lines, I am the shift of divinity back into power. Any mentions of cartography interest me, and those are found at the poem's end, which is study your mapping, explore the depths of your ocean floor. To finish off the introduction segment, Adam et al. Will further introduce Tasaka, and we thank him for making this video, which I'm gonna screen share right now.
Good afternoon, My Place Cafe. My name is Adam et al. I'm a poet, educator, and music maker from the Inland Empire. I want to give a shout out to Jesse for inviting me to introduce your featured poet today. And I look forward to coming to visit My Place Cafe later this year. I think it's an amazing thing, Jesse, the work that you're doing, building a community of artists and poets to come and spread their words and their emotions to people to connect with. And so today I get to introduce your featured poet, Micah. Micah is a queer, non-binary poet, multidisciplinary artist, and a Reiki master from Colton, California. Shout out to IE. They are author of Expansions, published in 2017 by Jammy Publishing. They're also editor at Innate Divinity Books, which will be soon releasing their first anthology titled A Case for the Personhood of Trees. You can find Micah at their website, www.micahtasaka.com, and on social media at kinokono_inaka. And now just a little personal connection to your poet that I have. I've known Micah for about 5 years now. We met in Riverside doing a reading for Inlandia Institute. And since then, I've had the pleasure of doing several readings with them over the years. And it's just been a joy whenever I get to see them and hear them perform. I'm filled with all sorts of emotions and inspiration, really. And that's, at the end of the day, that's what we need to ask for of our poets. And so I'm really happy to be introducing them to you today. And I'm very happy that you get to see and hear them perform their work for you. So without further ado, please welcome Micah Tasaka.
That was cute. That was Adam the homie. So I'm gonna move this so it's a little bit more. The people on Okay, hi. Hi. Information. Right. Bless me with a poem or two on my pillow in the morning. My ears are always too sensitive to pick up anything but hymnals, and I often forget to dream peaceful. Unhinging a jaw that spills too much too soon, I swoon on the colors of honesty, and I often forget how to introduce myself in casual settings, gasping in clouds and wheezing out thunder. Hi. I am a name made of dancing flowers and paddy fields that cling to the hillside. I make the moon cry too often with my gasping in and out. The lightning leaves burn holes in upholstery, lit fire on apostles' tongues, rumbling a storm essence, and all my stalks climb toward a sky that forgets them as soon as the dewdrops quench. I mean, hi. I'm an unwinding clock covered in rust and snoozes. My springs jut out in every direction, a compass pointing each way but north of such magnetism that encapsulates a space I hope to capture and press into a poem. Too oddly shaped for eyes, barely enough to be spoken, dulling eardrums into exertion, the skin stretched into rhythm cracks when I fall through the gap. I mean, hi. I am surely a seed begging to sprout, with hopes of building a forest, but laced with leaves hung heavy with doubt. I willow down and away, hope my quiet tongue can pray an offering enough to keep bread in my children's unholy mouths. I turn to dust and poison. I gust in my leaving and am left with only the gasping of clouds, wisped and falling into whisper. I mean, hi, nice to meet you. That was called Wisp. It's been a little bit since I've done like memorization poems, but I have my cheat sheet, so perfect, you know? Hello. Oh, hello, writer. Yeah, okay. This is called Temperance. So it's called number 14, Temperance. And it's from a series that I wrote based on all the major arcana of the tarot. So the 14th card is the Temperance card, and this is like my little interpretation of it, I guess. When discussing alchemy, it is important to remember that not all gold is finished with the transmutation process. Even though my heart oozes it, it's not always what spills out, especially when I'm a spiral lost in the wind or a hanging shoestring on a telephone wire. Tell me which way to go, how to hold myself up with the most grace, why I must now and forever be at the mercy of the breeze and fall in love with a sense of balance, magic from diluting tears, with fire and calming open sky, tummy stretches of desert brush with brittle fingers lifting towards a sun that always disappears in the evening. When we are all made of worms and humble tumbleweeds caught in a crevice against the mountain, may we howl, may we howl, may we allow the wind to speak through us. May we birth out our branches, a story big enough to hold us, but small enough so we will never drown. Those who speak in upside down faces and tongues lost to language, may we soon remember our weight in stars and allow our hearts to discern in galaxies to expansions beyond the intentions of our slow but steady movements. And in reaching for a pulse, I expect to feel my own veins screaming back at me, yet so far this year, I have yet to stutter or slur my words into avalanches. But when it rains, I've been too busy licking up the water so that I will never have to be thirsty again. And until tomorrow, I watch the movement of the moon, allow it to hurl me forward like a compass, like a burning chariot, like a falling star. It's really nice to be at like an in-person poetry event, especially when I like know every single person here. And like, I don't know who's on YouTube. That's cute. And I really like his breezeway. I like being, in the passing of everything people are doing. I think it's really cute. And shout out to My Place Cafe and Jesse. I literally think they had me, Jesse hit me up and asked me to do this like legit 6 months ago. And like, that's wild to me to like have things planned out that far in advance. So like respect to you, like I'm not on that level by any means. So that's cool. But yeah, thank you for listening. This is called If We're Even Human. And it's like dedicated to like queer folks who like made it to adulthood because so many of us don't, And so yeah, it's called If We're Even Human. It like came out in a what do they call it? A journal a few years back called Name and None, which is this really cute like non-binary journal for non-binary and trans folks. They do a lot of really cute work, but yeah, it's called If We're Even Human. We are gods, consulting with demons, awaiting collapse of ways of being so outdated, not old enough to be jaded, but still so full of scars. A childhood that left too many marks on bodies. We barely made it, barely breathed oxygen, but still, if we were human, we would have already crumbled, already caved under weight of gravity. Our bones would never stand. No, we, transmorphing angels upon elemental demand, became lioness, became sea creature, cut gills, sprouted wings, grew muscle and fat and carved smiles. Still, among us, the greatest, the wisest, the bravest, universal secret held inside palms, sweating, we know we must be divine. Survival molded us so godlike, resilient branches bend and never snap. We must be, there is no other answer. Oh, makes you set a time to see how much I'm doing, but I forgot. 6, okay, thank you, I appreciate that. This is called Resilience is My Greatest Inheritance, and it came out of a project I did in Landia maybe last year or the year before, I don't remember, but it was like this like workshop for like queer and trans youth of color, and we were studying this book by Jennifer Espinosa called There Should Be Flowers, which is really cute because like the whole concept of the book is like instead of being given like hate and shame, like queer and trans folks should be given offerings of flowers, which I think is so cool. But yeah, it's called Resilience. It's my greatest inheritance. If we are to do more than just survive, I need you to recognize my gender as supernova, shimmering and fluid star remnants that collapsed after too many years of wisdom, stretching to the furthest reaches of the universe, wrapping their tongue all over every single speck of drifting stardust. Call me glorious, glittering, fluid. Call me something beyond language, something with the ability to fit into whatever shape they are put into. If we are to do more than just survive, let me learn to fall in love with the feeling of not dying. Let me open my mouth wide and empty my lungs completely into this quiet moment of exchange between my breath and the dancing candle on my nightstand, as we all melt, as we all change shape, growing bigger and less defined with each inch of space we unapologetically take. Yeah, so I grew up in the Inland Empire of California, and being like a young queer child out there, we had like no resources at all. Like there were no orgs to like go to. There was like nothing. It was just us, right? Now things are changing, which is cool. Like it's cool to see things shifting. But like as like a young person, as a young person, it was like very hard for me to believe that like I would ever see the age of 30, right? And I think that's like a very common thing for folks who like grew up out there or spend time out there. Like everything just feels very crushing. And so like when I finally hit my 30th birthday, I was like blown away, and I was like, I never thought this would ever happen for me. So it was really crazy. So this poem is called Almost 30, and I wrote it like literally a few days before turning 30. Yeah, I was yet. And yet I didn't ever think I'd get here. I never imagined living past my early 20s. Queers die of old age when we're young with living like tomorrow isn't supposed to happen, when we're sleeping under freeway tunnels and downing bags of pills and exclaiming a green sky, flashing red and blue and deafening sirens, and counting each grain of sand that buries our friends before their bodies were ever whole. But somehow I made it out of the thickets, my scarred skin and my now clean nails. I still have all my teeth, for God's sake. I'm told I'm lucky for living with a whole head of shards, living like the night I pulled Violet from the train tracks and stared down demons in her eyes after some fuck told her she wasn't really a woman. And you tell me who's lucky when a tree refuses to be chopped down, grows bark hard as diamonds, dares the world to try, then escapes with nothing but all its leaves and the weight of survival crushing what is already empty. Yeah, this is called For Those Still Burning. Just because yours fits into a recognizable category, while mine shifts with the wind, never staying put long enough to be identified as simple, will you still see me? As I crawl along the lines of cement, shifting my squirming body back and forth the crack that does neither of us any good, only harm. And isn't that the point of language? So why do we always get into these arguments done mostly with our eyes and the tones of our voices, projecting assumed experiences when neither of us really know what it's like to live in each other's skins, to see what each other's eyes have seen and hold the wave of our genders swelling inside our chests? I would rather shake hands with you, discuss our differences over warm tea on late nights when we are both hungry. I would rather invite you in, make you a meal, listen to your stories, create bridges where our tongues used to only judge silently. Yeah, so that one, I'm gonna dedicate that to the one, to this guy who was at like the Long Beach Pride Parade with like the gays go to hell sign. Like that's to that fool, like shout out to you. I hope you're having a good day. Yeah, okay, so this one is like a mashup of like a bunch of different performance pieces that I did like years ago. And I realized like, it's been a few years since I performed this, but I realized in like memorizing it and practicing it, that it's actually like a really mean thing to do to your brain. Because like when you have performance pieces, you like, your brain like can just kind of go on autopilot and they just come out how they come out, right? But then when you take those and like chop them up and mix them up and put them in all these different orders, like your brain wants to go like this, but you're like jerking it in this direction and then in this direction and this direction. And it's like, yeah, so like I said, cheat sheets if I don't, yeah, this is called, and then I found myself on open ocean, ready to touch. Yeah. It is hot, it's like in the 90s today. Okay. If I could get around it, I would have already died trying to escape. Resting in tectonic plates, I am that sleeping earthquake ready to break apart the dirt. The tugging in my soul, pulling me across Pacific waters, reversing ancestral crossings, what else is being reborn again and again, manifestation across the ocean that used to keep me so quiet. Let me now ask too many questions like, what is a year? Like, what is a desert, if not an ocean, of sky and sand stretching their belly buttons towards each other, showing so much skin, painting ribbons in the sky to explain all the metaphors I wrap myself in, repeating that if I keep reaching, if I just keep believing in ghosts, then maybe they will continue to haunt me. All these words that haunt me through whatever, sweeter than ever tasted, ever sipped, ever rolled around my tongue on waves of coming up and down. I bow to these turnt Uber driver dancing lessons with universe. I bow to you, to sun and earth and moon, to the most unholy of hallelujahs on honey drip tongue, amen, prying open pearly gates. I'm no longer bombed down to atomic silver coins, stolen sheep, once lost, then found. I now know which direction to blow. This long-winded poet stuck in falling verse, writing tsunami wave, hits. The tremors that continue to wake me from sleeping. But it is true, without all these tremors, I would not be earthquake, I would not be lightning, I would not be Riverside, that thing that I am, that thing that I will always be inside my mouth of black sidewalk gum, or dripping down my nose of train track cum, legs apart, face between knees, faded. The one with the giant pupils, pray to her instead of God. Pray for her as if God lost his own religion upon mere sight of her and capsized boats to feed her oceans, left us to worship the moon instead. So believe me when I say that everything I say is holy, everything I say is holy, everything I say is scripture on false being baptized, born again from between her legs, mumbling, all my salvations at once. I am a new creation. I am a new creation, coming into alignment, rising and falling, forgetting, recalling is all that I've held resurfaces, and I go plunging onward, crazier than I ever have been, but able to see the purpose at the center of everything, where there are spirals at the center of cyclones, letting go to, give in to, the wind to, go flying and falling, flying and falling. So that's the only thing today that has anything to do with this book. Because at this point it's a couple years old, but yeah, I haven't read those poems in a long time. But that last one has pieces and remnants of stuff from there. Yeah. Okay, so this is called, how is my time? Oh, first solid. This is called Tips on Surviving Motherlands. Give yourself permission to sweat. For real though, today. Give yourself permission to sweat, to cry. Hello. Hello. Befriend water, swallow rain, jump into waves, become flower, inhale starlight, ingest sun with mouth open inside lungs before each exhale, before judgment, each misunderstanding upon tongue tips will soon become language. Give yourself permission to speak, speak with honesty, each syllable like honey awkwardly dripping down throat. Give yourself permission to crumble, to become mud over and over, embrace typhoon and water and wind and shaking walls. Give yourself permission to break open. Give yourself permission to survive. So this one kind of doesn't really have a title, but it's that feeling of going back to what's supposed to be your ancestral homeland, and then getting there and realizing that you're just as much of a foreigner as everybody else, and these people do not claim you, but then it's also one thing that I did when I moved to Japan is I was searching for my family, right? I was searching for family connection, finding out where we came from, because I don't know anything about where we came from, but it was really difficult, trying to convince Japanese people who at times can be wildly xenophobic, trying to convince them that I'm yeah, I'm actually of you, we're just migrants and whatever happened. So it's trying to reach for something that feels it's not even really there. Yeah. On this side of the water, I am freezing at the base, where once the roots are severed, there is no trace of. Ask me where I come from when I have no family branches to tell the name of a town or the way it looked upon leaving. Behind me, there is a shore begging my waves to crash in the simplest grace, to fill the air with prayer again. But here I am, the nameless, last pen stroke full of dying ink, and isn't that just like a poet to go off on tangents of the tangible lives inside a croaking frog's mouth, hailing the coming spring? I have been waiting to say my existence is something other than othered, less a victim than a vicious storm caught in mellow weather. Watch me rain down, watch me river into dreaming and riptide, all the words lost in language. I am the unspeaking, foreigner who holds the chopsticks well, but can't construct complete sentences to explain the leftover feeling of being both away and home, spun into a web that says, I am not here, I am not of here, I am somewhere other than here, but I'm here connecting. The splintered pieces of a tree trunk after lightning hits and leaves all smoldering. I'm touching the smoke and saying it is real. This is called The Lost Thing. When I finally landed on this shore, a belly full of hope and promise, I found instead that half my body dropped a bomb on the other half my body, and parts of me are still dying in the aftermath. 3 generations later, my skin peels off and regrows every night. I cover my bed in roses for every dying cell, asking this land to nourish me, but I set fire to my hometown to stand against a red sun that forgets me, a lost thing still cleaning up the mess left from a diaspora I didn't ask for, but when they granted me an existence that feels as if it's expiring every day, that I stay so landlocked on an island, floating on an ocean, 5,000 miles away from. But what is home when I am rain, tossed by wind, showered on some dry patch of dirt that will never bear any memory? My grandpa finally told stories of the farm on his deathbed when the harvest was good and the air full of orange blossoms and cicada screech, and he ate mochi with his fingers and never spoke of an ocean that swallowed the way back. Well, I'm caught in the knowing that my country dropped a bomb on the other half of my country, and I'm standing on the ocean trying to remember the sound of my own name. I wait to drown. Yeah, so one of the things that I did almost immediately upon arriving to Japan is climbed Mount Fuji, which was like crazy because like you climb overnight, right? And it's the tallest mountain in the country, but like there's something about like being like 12,000 feet in the air and having like this whole existential crisis and being like, what am I even doing with my life right now? Like, this is crazy, you know? And like it's a trip because like people can get like sick from being like not getting enough oxygen up there because you're just so high up in the air, you know? Hello to you. But yeah, like it's a trip because it's like nobody told me that we were going to be hiking throughout the night instead of sleeping. So as a tourist, I was pissed naturally. But then like, so like it was a really crazy hike. But then after I like came back, I was reading about how like somebody had like a theory where there's like different places on Earth that are considered like the chakras of the Earth, and Mount Fuji is considered the heart chakra of the Earth. And that just kind of like blew my mind because like the whole time I was like so pissed and like grumbling and like where it's like nobody told me, you know. But then it's like how crazy that like that's what like healing your heart chakra looks like, you know. And it's like it happens regardless of what I think, right? But yeah, so this is called Fuji. You will break the mountain twice as hard as it will love you. Turn your muscles into rock. Melt the veins to the wall socket where you used to want to get fried, but now you're praying the come down will land you safely as the sun rays. If only you were safely on the ground, basking instead of rolling dice and hoping you make it past sunrise. Before the sun sets and you limp back to a home that is barely your home yet, but you will become again gentleness and calm with swollen knees and ice cubes in the bathtub. You will come so close and then fall more times than once, scraping your skin against the rocks, protruding and intruding on your 12,000 foot high crisis. May you become a mountain at least once in your lifetime. To say that you were crazy enough to think you could be made of wonder, if only to crack when the wind blows against chapped lips, kissing such death and still finding flat ground. Oh, so I have like 3 more. Yeah. Okay. Timekeeper, I appreciate that. So this is like probably the first poem I wrote after coming back. And when I came back, I was like living with my mom and dad, and I was like 31 living with my mom and dad, and she just being like, what is happening right now, you know? But I think it was like important for me because it gave me some space to view them through like adult eyes. But yeah, this is called the Trans-Pacific Cactus. My father dances around the cactus garden, regardless of what thorns might stick him. He tells me to water the trans cactus. He says trans and my body grows thorns. He dances around them. I say trans and mean the way the Pacific shifted my gender each time I traversed it, to return to the true countryside that pulled flowers from my skin so I could wiggle my body over a line in the ground that becomes less significant each time I cross it. He says trans and means the cactus we just dumped from the pot into the soil, but a feeling hangs in the air, like when you know you said the wrong thing, but you hope no one catches you. And isn't that also a lesson in planting? My dad turns the shovel towards the sky and pokes the handle into the dirt several times and says, "You have to pack it in like this. I learned this on the ranch." And I'm thinking of the ways that he too has repotted himself, and how all transplants must feel awkward as they reach towards the sun from a new position. And aren't we all a shifting arc towards the feeling of sunlight, letting it and nothing else lead our movements, whether we be vacant bodies or a room incomplete without candlelight, the countertop drowning in piles of junk mail, my shoulders that pop less each day I do my stretches. There is no more space until we make some. So we dance around the garden with both arms lifted, praising this and every moment that we allow ourselves to grow. Yeah, so I came back in August of 2020, the height of COVID, and I somehow managed to literally, I lived really far from Tokyo, but I flew out of Tokyo. So I managed to travel from one side of the country to Tokyo, then on a plane from Tokyo to LA, then from LA to the IE. And then I lived for 3 months without getting COVID at all. And then somehow I got COVID, low-key because my mom works at a Christian school that didn't believe in masks and whatever. Yeah, this was written in the beginning of 2021, after I had gotten through that first round of COVID. And this was a really bad one where you couldn't smell or taste anything. It was really awful. And then I was thinking about there was a time in California where there were so many wildfires, but also there were so many bodies being burned of people who had died from COVID. And people were talking about how they couldn't tell whether the ash in the sky was from bodies or from hills, which is mind blowing to me. And then the beginning of 2021, I went to a drive-through rave, which is hilarious to think about. Drive-through rave, yeah. And so shout out, this one, I'm gonna dedicate it to the person whose Jeep we were in during this poem. Yeah, you know who you are. Yeah, okay. So it's called Upon the Electric. I think that was all the three top. Yeah, okay. On the electric. The next day, there are two options. Lay in bed all day and roll my eyes at graying clouds clustering near my window, or drink as much caffeine as I can hold in my stomach and try to type out a poem. This is the poem, or at least tries to be the poem, about the next day and the next day and each day in between the good ones. Last night, I went to a drive-through rave. Yeah, 2021 is still gasping at our lungs until we can no longer fill them with the smoke of bodies burned. In California, we are always burning. If it's not our hills, it's our bodies. This is our alchemic gift, except I still don't know what we get in return. But last night, I bathed in lights and smoke in the back of my friend's Jeep with my torso out the sunroof swaying to someone else's playlist. And I missed the connection to my body, found in a musky warehouse in some random downtown Los Angeles alley, scoring pills from gay boys and dancing till the sun comes up. But that left me long before the 2020 cyclones ever hit. And now I'm here again, but I'm someone different. Trying to reconcile my need for sleep and my longing to feel the good old days instead of just letting them die. And what else might we put to rest before the year can truly hold us? It's barely the end of January and I'm already looking past this or looking backwards or looking nowhere. Before me, there is nothing but a grave, and I'm here squeezing out as many laughs as I can before it takes me. I'm just saying that death follows me underground. I'm saying I've already died 1,000 times. I'm saying there's heartbreak when the promise of reaching back to a home I remembered is what kept me alive on an island all those winters. And upon returning, I find that it too has also died and been reborn as something I can't recognize. And I'm talking about change, how it no longer feels the way I remember, when I still can't smell nostalgia even after a month of post-COVID recovery, And isn't this also just a drug? And aren't all drugs a way of bending reality to make more tolerable what we already know is burning? And are we already on fire if we were born in the scorching rolling hills that crunch beneath our movements? And I'm just saying that I tried to survive these last few years, but I already died and I'm struggling to break out of the cocoon. I am ripping at the edges with my claws and screaming to be let out, but I now speak a different language. And I can't always understand myself when I'm buried under so many unprocessed layers, and I'm just like literally trying to dance away the feeling of being both home and away at the same time. I'm trying to forget that I may never come home to myself. But until then, there are those of us in this car passing the bottle of poppers back and forth just to feel something other than the shock of being alive.
Not trying to keep it quiet.
Yeah, one more, yeah. Perfect, okay. Yeah, this one is called Evaporation, and I love to do this one, and I like dedicate it to my younger core self who didn't think they were gonna make it. I'm always just like, congrats on making it, bitch, you did. But yeah, this is called Evaporation, also like a mashup, but you know. It's very hot here. Yeah, we're ready to bounce. In the breeze, you must be the most hot. Okay, we're good. Okay, evaporation. Having survived so many extinctions, a poet prostrate, praise ancestrally, as if my musings could be anything but honoring. Every hurdle jumped so I can walk flat ground and cross oceans without bleeding. All my family teeth, given as offerings of smoke and ash, used as fodder for my spine, I am grateful for every cavity and sugar so sweet to rot them, position I'm placed in, perfect for bent knees and never saying sorry for every blessing uttered on grandmother lips. I bow to these hills and valleys, to the body that carries me, past disbelief and wonder, past capsized hunger, yet questions if I will make it beyond my years, when I've already made it past the ages I thought would take me. Please believe all the dust and stars I am made from, compacted so hard to concrete leap over bounds and great walls and climb mountains to tell the epilogues at the ends of conclusions, these cycles. I'm not pretending to understand, so I just breathe them, scribbling down the moments I can remember in between the crash and clatter of bleeding fingers and shedding uterine walls to open up my eyes and find a space for me between them. Pulsing in the winds, I may fall once or twice more before I reach the sky, but I'm still sugar sweet, dripping honey in a land full of milk and prayers to stain my lips with. I bless each and every second that I am here before whatever evaporation and so on. So you should come and bring offerings to the palace I am becoming. So far from my hometown, the sky above is nothing but memory, forever fading like fireworks, exploding, emptying the moon of shadow. I strike matches. I let my native tongue fall out the gaps in my teeth. I now sound like the frogs croaking or the birds singing. And how often have I caved in on myself like this, folded the edges in, regretting in front of heaven the shape of my layers, the blossoms extending outward, forgetting they are flowers, and in remembering the main reason I shed skin to begin with. I wander away from home and back again. It is not so simple. When laying next to an entire sun, speaking without creating ashes of my words every time I open my mouth, and yet here I am, becoming less popular. Each day I choose to stay at home, pouring tea in the kitchen, writing dreams of leaving on every other piece of scrap, dog-eared, crummy, spiral bound until I am flooded in notebooks and scribbles, and can't distinguish my highest from lowest moments without feeling like all I've ever done is sift rubble, is scrub remnants from skin, is attempt fire with wet wood, is swallow an entire ocean and still feel as if I am filled with absolutely nothing at all. But the truth about water is buried inside of bodies that bow to moons, Having no concept of edges or constant flow, it is ever changing, ridiculous when held inside my hands without running out, never meant to be so contained, but still, I walk sea cliffs, singing seagull songs, listening for a single droplet to fall and sailing on the come down. Got me loose with sailing, dumping out my pores. There's endless rivers here, blessing the pools I lie in with ribbons of smoke and picking thorns from socks and cocoa powder dirt underneath the rainbow sky. I pour my whole self in and loosely fit in the spaces between lips and thighs. So find me here, sucking up wet nectar until it turns to honey in my stomach, as if I could ever be anything else but loving. So full of seawater, I dip my body under, baptism for the prof. New names, this might be my arrival to an age I never thought I'd see alive. So watch me unfold like a flower in spring and attract every beautiful thing to carry me further than wants or needs. These are the repercussions of living. Thank you.
Well, Micah, thank you so much for reading here. Seriously, I'm glad this is now reality. And thank you for everyone that's here in person that came to watch. And for those on YouTube, thank you for watching as well. I'm glad to have Eric Devon in the audience today. For those that haven't seen the Inside SoCal CBS video that they did on My Place Cafe, Devon was one of the poets that was here being interviewed along with Best Kept, also known as Corey Kofer, and Romaine Washington. All right, and if you wanna get in touch with Micah, you can follow them on Instagram at Kino Kana underscore. Oh, what?
It's Kinoko no Inaka.
Oh yeah, I know. I was reading the chat. See back. All right, so later on today, there's gonna be a paint and sip here at 5:30. Come on out for that if there's any spots available. Whoa.